The journey has been long and arduous, but it is finally coming to a peaceful end.
I'd hoped our efforts to reach a peaceful agreement would be more successful.
I'm afraid it's too late for negotiations now.
Excellent. Everything is going according to plan. I love it when that happens, don't you, Winston? Winston?
I've got a box of kittens. Well, there's 2 kittens, but they were in a box, so technically what I'm saying is true, but there's not like 1,000.
Welcome back to the channel where we discuss the creative uses of AI, and today it's the Kling 1.5 update. Lip sync, motion brush, higher quality all around. Let's get into it.
I love how good these video generators are getting, and Kling has stepped up to the plate with a new update, which has been around for a little bit, and I'm kind of glad I waited to do the video, though, because, of course, 2 days ago, they dropped this lip sync feature, and then I would have had to make 2 Kling videos in a row, and ain't nobody got time for that. Anyway, let's take a look at these features. First of all, when you come to the page, if you haven't been there in a while, you're going to get this notification telling you about these updates, the new lip sync feature, a new community section, and an API platform. If you're really interested in a deep dive on the API platform aspect of this, then let me know and maybe I can do some digging and find out for you, but I think most of us are just here to make some fun videos. But those are just the updates that happened the past few days. About a week ago, they added a new model, the 1.5 model, which is said to, of course, increase the quality of the animations, and we're going to do some side-by-side comparisons. But they also introduced the motion brush, which allow you to select a part of the image and give it direction via a drawing of an arrow so that you actually have more control over the finer details of the animation. So as always, because it takes a while for these things to render, I prepared some things for you yesterday, and we're going to go through them today so you don't have to sit there and watch me type a bunch of props and certainly wait. I'm going to mostly concentrate on the quality of the regular animations, both text to video and image to video, and the comparisons between the 1.0 model and the 1.5 model, but also be showing how the lip sync works and how the motion brush works. Those are the 1.5 features I really want to focus on. Now, at the opening of this video, you saw some examples of the lip sync in action, and for the most part, it does an excellent job. The way it works is this. First, you generate a video, and in this case, I did this elderly man with weathered skin and silver hair with a box of kittens. Well, a couple of kittens anyway. And you'll notice he's clearly not saying anything. But to make him move, you click the match mouth type button. It'll take a couple of seconds to analyze it. It's already done it in this case, so it doesn't have to. And then you just drop in the audio file that you want. After you upload it, you can preview it a little.
I've got a box of kittens. Well, there's 2 kittens.
If it's too long or if you just want to use a portion of it, you can click the trim icon there and you can make adjustments to when it starts and stops. In this case, I'm going to use the whole thing and then click lip sync and it will start to generate the video. I've clearly already done it, so I won't use those credits. But when you do a lip sync video that is denoted by the little lip icon here, time to put on headphones. So here was my first attempt.
I've got a box of kittens here. Can I interest you in one?
So it worked okay, but the beard pulled a little bit when the kitten moved in front of it. So I tried it again with a slightly different audio file, and I got the one that I ended up using in the opening.
I've got a box of kittens. Well, there's 2 kittens, but they were in a box, so technically what I'm saying is true, but there's not like 1,000.
So it's a little odd in places. And when I say kittens and my mouth doesn't close all the way, I don't know why I'm saying my. When his mouth doesn't close all the way, it's a little odd, but for the most part, it's very realistic looking. When some of these lip sync technologies, if the mouth there is moving in one direction and you try to add new lip movement on top of that, you often get these 2 lip movements fighting with one another and it looks really weird. In this case, it totally reworks the animation from the ground up, or so it would appear. One of the things I do want to mention is that for any images I generated for this particular demo for you today, I used the image generator within Kling and not Flux or Stable Diffusion or anything else. Because honestly, the colors model that drives this is amazing. Look at the images and the colors that we get on some of these things. I mean, I couldn't ask for better imagery from another service, so I don't even need to go outside of the platform to generate my base images that I want to create. I can get just about anything I want out of here and did. And because it's done within the platform, if you want to animate any of these or turn them into a video, you can just click on Bring to Life and it moves it right into position, ready to go for you to prompt, to add motion brush direction or anything else you want. This original image here was generated in the Kling platform. I brought it in to bring it to life, and I gave it the prompt, an elderly queen sits upon her throne, and I add she's giving a very important speech. So it already included some lip movement, but of course it's not really saying anything. But as before, I clicked match mouth type, uploaded an audio file, and ended up with this.
Excellent. Everything is going according to plan.
Emperor.
I love it when that happens, don't you, Winston? Winston.
I love the name Winston. Okay, here's another example. I tried a couple of different generations to see what the expression was on his face, what the mouth movement was originally, to see which one I wanted to put the lip movement on top of, and ultimately I tried a couple.
This is indeed distressing news. I'd hoped our efforts to reach a peaceful agreement would be more successful.
Let's watch that again, because at the beginning, the first sentence out of his mouth did not get picked up on the lips, and then the rest of it was very little lip movement. Watch again.
This is indeed distressing news. I'd hoped our efforts to reach a peaceful agreement would be more successful.
So I just ran it again.
This is indeed distressing news. I'd hoped our efforts to reach a peaceful agreement would be more successful.
So again, it, for whatever reason, left out the first few words, but then put the rest in. So when I did my opening, I just edited out the part where it didn't work. That's what editing is all about, Charlie Brown. Now for this part of the opening, I had to run the animation a few times. I am using the Kling 1.5 model. I started with an image, and here I used the same prompt that I used to create the image, just to see what would happen if it gave it any kind of direction. But the result I got was this. It starts okay, but then he moves and moves and moves and moves, and now I'm a little worried that the lip sync isn't going to work, but even if it did, it doesn't make any sense for him to be looking away. So then I did it again, and I modified the prompt saying talks directly to the camera, so that way he won't move away. It generated its default lip movement, and then I replaced it with my audio file.
Welcome back to the channel where we discuss the creative uses of AI, and today it's the Kling 1.5 update. Lip sync, motion brush, higher quality all around. Let's get into it.
And if you want to do it again, you can click on redub. But I was thrilled with that. Wouldn't you have been? Now this is a case where no matter what I did, it wouldn't find the mouth. Now there's clearly a mouth here, and the way that this is supposed to work is if Kling detects that there's a face with a mouth and everything in the image, and especially if it's consistently visible the whole time, it should pick it up and you should be allowed to do lip sync. But a couple of times I did run into the situation where it simply didn't give me the option to do math mouth type. It says it lacks a consistently visible face, or the face frequently leaves the screen, which I don't really think is the case here, but this turned out so good it just makes me want to be creative and say, all right, I'll just make up words that fit with that mouth movement, because the rest of it looks stunning. This is another example where I used the same prompt that I used to create the image to guide the animation. It created some default mouth movement again, and then I added my own audio file.
I'm afraid it's too late for negotiations now.
Nice, quick, short 5-second clip. For the most part, in all of these demonstrations, I use the professional mode because it almost is always better. In this case, I used Kling 1.5 and I didn't use a starting image. I just put in the text prompt because I wanted to see what it would generate. And in this case, it did a wonderful job. It got the crawling creatures. I'd love it if she was a little bit clearer, but it doesn't matter because the lip sync ended up working anyway when I added it.
The journey has been long and arduous, but it is finally coming to a peaceful end.
I just freaking love that. Now, I've looked at a lot of these automatic lip sync generation stuff. I've shared things here on the channel. There's some I haven't played with yet, but to me, this is getting close to the most realistic. It still looks a little like the frame rate's weird or something's not quite right, but I've seen other people run this stuff through interpolation software and upscale it, and it just looks magnificent at the end. So again, we're using these AI tools to create some source media, which then we bring into our creative workflow, where we insert our own creativity and imagination and make it our own. The other big addition to the Kling platform is the motion brush. But it's not available yet for the 1.5 model. So if you want to play with the motion brush, you got to come up here and click on the original model. Here's the concept. You start with an image. In this case, it was a cat sitting on a table, which I did generate here in the platform. And here she is. What I want to happen is for the cat to jump off the table. So I'm going to click the motion brush controls here. And you'll see that what I did was I selected the cat, because that's the first thing you do. You select the object that you want to move, and then you create an arrow that defines the movement. Let me just clear this all out and I'll show you. There are two ways to go about selecting an item. When you first load in the image, there's a process that happens called auto segmentation that automatically picks out various objects as it sees them. Now, it's not always perfect. You do have to do some multiple selecting, but it's just another quicker way to select objects. But if you want more precision, you can turn off auto segmentation. You can use this brush here, you can change the size up, and this just paint exactly on to the object that you want to move, in this case the cat. And then you draw a tracking path by just clicking track 1 and then drawing the arrow literally in the direction that you want the object to move. That's the concept. So in theory, the cat should jump off the table. There's also a static area, which I highly recommend you get familiar with, because if you don't want camera movement that you didn't mean to happen, this is probably going to be your answer, because when you choose a static area, it prevents the area that you choose from being animated at all. I had lots of situations where I would try something just like this, and instead of the cat jumping off the table, the whole camera would sort of move to the left. is getting a little frustrating, which seems like a good time to tell you about this right here, the Motion Brush User Guide. I know that I've mentioned user guides all the time because a lot of people do skip over them and they wonder why they don't get the results that they are going for, and it's simply because they're not following basic instructions that are provided for you on the page just a link away. So I highly recommend, especially with the Motion Brush feature, that you get in here and you click around and look at the examples and try some things so that you understand how it's supposed to work. There's nothing else in this image that it makes sense for it to move really, so I'm just going to click on static area. I'm going to make sure auto segmentation is on. It'll just make it a little bit easier, and then I can just click all around and choose objects. I found that you don't have to select everything except the cat. It gets the idea is, okay, well, I'm not going to move this stuff around here, and it does a pretty good job of keeping everything still, so you don't have to be perfect about it. Once you've got everything set up the way you want, you click on confirm, and now it's ready for you to add a prompt. And it is highly recommended, which is something I did not do at first, and I'll show you on my examples, to be explicit. You could even say, orange tabby cat jumps off the wooden table onto the floor. Something else I've experimented with a great deal is if it's not doing what I ask it to, I'm going to push up the relevance a little bit, anywhere between 0.65 and 0.7. I am saying this is what worked for me. It may not work for you. Nobody told me this is the official way to do it. I wasn't getting the results I was looking for, so I decided to push the prompt a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and run this in the background, and I'll show you in the meantime the examples that I tried that weren't working. This is the first example. If you look at the motion brush that I defined, it's very much like I just showed you, only I did not define any static areas. So you can see that the animation is mostly the camera moving, and the cat isn't doing anything except looking at you like, what do you expect me to do? Jump off the wooden table onto a floor? Still another attempt. This time I put the arrow in a different place, and I made it shorter, and I did choose a static area. So in this case, we do not have the camera movement, but we also don't have the cat jumping off. But you'll also see that my slider here is still in the middle. I had not yet started to try to push it. And you should note also that the motion brush doesn't support anything other than a 5-second video. So 10 seconds is not a choice. I thought I'll try a different cat, different angle, different idea. So we got the cat on the table. I did not do a static area. I wanted it to jump back onto the sink. I said explicitly, cat jumps to sink. But what you see is the cat is saying, are you talking to me? I don't see anybody else here.
What have I got to do to get this motion brush to work? There's obviously something I'm missing.
Generated that after several attempts at trying to make this man walk over to the jackets. But you'll notice there's no prompt to tell him to do that. I only did a motion brush. So I selected the man, I pointed to the jackets, and he stared at me like I was a freaking idiot. But I kept trying. Man walks over to look through some coats hanging on a rack. Really more explicit. But again, my relevance scale right there in the middle. I didn't really push it any further than that. I did not select a static area. So you'll notice that the camera is moving. This is how you learn from my mistakes, folks. On this one, you'll see we've got some movement. He actually turns and considers that there are jackets that actually could be walked over to. The prompt still says man walks over to look through some coats, but I did push the relevance up a good bit, and now we seem to be pushing him a little bit more. But I wasn't satisfied with that. Now you can see he's actually going over there, and he touches the coats, ladies and gentlemen. He did it. So what did I do different? In this one, I selected him, created a static area, very rough. I tried to get this lamp to move and swing a little bit too with a squiggle, and moved him all the way over. I just said, no, I want you over here. And by golly, he said, oh, these jackets. Sorry about that. But I didn't get the swinging of the lamp over here for whatever reason. But in some of the earlier generations, like the one previous, there's a little bit of motion there. And this one puts some motion in something in the background that didn't actually exist. So it's a little hit and miss. Now here I was trying to get a dog to jump off a bench, and I just, spoiler alert, I never got him to do it. I tried selecting him. Again, I did not choose a static area here. Pointed an arrow to the ground, said dog jumps off bench, but because I didn't choose a static area, I've got that camera movement. But I decided rather than trying to get the dog to jump off the thing, I'll just do something a little bit simpler. And so I selected the dog's head, moved it back and forth, and said dog moves his head back and forth. And we do have a dog moving his head back and forth. Here's another dog moving his head back and forth. This one looks a little more natural, but did you notice what I did? This isn't motion path. This is Kling 1.5. So basically, I just went over to the Kling 1.5 model, gave it the exact same prompt, dog moves his head back and forth, and without the need for a motion brush, it just knew how to do it. Here's the one where I had a major breakthrough, and I was so happy I can't even imagine. So here's the image that was generated in the platform. I know the umbrella's a little screwed up, but that's not the point of this. I even misspelled the word "and." So dog walks under and umbrella to get out of the rain as the dog lowers his head. So I went back to model 1.0, So I could do the motion brush. I just selected the dog's head, drew a little arrow. I selected the cat, moved him firmly underneath. I did do a static area around the rest of it. And then I got this. Exactly what I freaking wanted. Dog lowered his head, cat walked under. Hello. And look, the relevance wasn't even up there that high. So what do you suppose made the difference? I wish I could tell you. You just keep hacking away at it, my friends. Now here's another example of where I tried to get this monster machine. You can see when you hover over here, you can see what the motion path I created. I was trying to get it to go around the corner, right? Around the corner. I chose a static area and all of that, but he just kind of like hovered there. Now, I don't know whether it's because of the static area that I put there, like, well, I can't go into the static area, or exactly what happened. Doesn't seem like it should be that way, but he's definitely not really following the prompt there. But it also could be because I over prompted it up here. I used the same prompt to guide this as I did to generate the image, and quite frankly, it could have just been too much. We're back to the Kling 1.5 example, and I used the same prompt. No motion brush, but look at that. This is just to show you how good the 1.5 model is. I mean, that is a major difference and incredible. So back to the 1.0 model and the motion brush. This was just another attempt. I think on this one, I just drew the arrow more aggressively. No, I wanted to come around the corner like that. I did still have the static area, and it moved, but it seemed to kind of move like, I'm out of here, and the legs are kind of falling apart and all that too. Here's another motion brush example that I'm absolutely thrilled with. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. I have a giraffe playing chess, and I tell it the head bending down to move the pieces. I go into the motion brush, I select the giraffe, I move his head down to the piece, and then I get this beautiful thing here. The head just goes down and he puts his mouth, well, he kind of maybe misses the piece, but I love it. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. But then I tried the same prompt over in the 1.5 model. And again, this will just show you how good the 1.5 model is just by itself. All I did with no image, this was just text to video, is a giraffe playing chess, and it came up with this. I love this. This is so great. Here's the 1.0 model version of a giraffe playing chess. Again, just text to video. So we've got this one here, 1.0, where he doesn't really put his mouth on the piece. He's more like he's thinking about it, taking his dadgum time, chewing on some gum or whatnot. I don't know. And then this guy's like, all right, look, I don't have time for this. Are you going to move or what? Because look, if you're not, I'm just going to move for you. I think it's pretty clear that there is definite improvement in the images and everything between 1.0, which is still really good, and 1.5, just more details, it's richer, a little bit more animated. Here I attempted to give the giraffe someone to play with, so I had an image. Elephant playing chess, moving the king right here with his trunk. So I drew a motion, but the thing is, obviously all his trunk isn't in there, so I just selected what I could. I did some sort of attempt, and then I wanted the piece to go up as he picked it up. I'm just going, I wonder if this will work. Well, here's the answer. It didn't quite work the way I wanted to. The trunk moves a second right here at the beginning, and then the piece doesn't really do anything. In this case, this is the 1.5 model with the image and the prompt, but no motion brush because the motion brush isn't supported in 1.5. And he picks up that piece or hides it or whatever, but just generally speaking, a better job because the 1.5 model is clearly better. But the details in the ears, everything just looks great with the 1.5. Hey, a little bonus surprise, that cat video that we started to render at the beginning that sort of took into consideration what I had learned, here's the result. Look at that, everything's still, and the cat is clearly on his way to jumping off the table. I did it, ladies and gentlemen, and you watched it happen. Let's do a couple of more comparisons between the 1.0 model and the 1.5 on the same stuff. Here's the 1.0 model with an image as the prompt, lion running toward camera, angry, roaring. So it looks good. The legs are a little wonky back here, particularly well, both of them in the back are just a little bit weird. Here's 1.5. So immediately you see crisper detail. Let's go full screen with this bad boy. Look at that. That is really amazing resolution. Definitely part of the upgrade is the HD resolution. Now, the left leg is questionable. Is it here? No, it's not. That's the other. And then it's here. And then it sort of vanishes. But you're probably looking at the face going, I got to get the heck out of here, right? So amazing. You know, for a while I was kind of annoyed that everything that these AI generators was producing was all this slow motion. I'm like, but that's not real. But you actually have options then, because it's almost like you shot something in 60 frames per second instead of 30. So if you take these videos that are going slow motion and you simply speed them up in your DAW, you can get them to look normal. But then you also have this flexibility of having all these frames if you wanted to do slow motion effects. So instead of going, oh, why is it always slow motion? Say, thank you for giving me some options. Here's a case where it's a little bit difficult to tell the difference between 1.0 and 1.5 because they both do a a really good job. This is 1.0 based on an image again. Yes, it was created here in Kling, and I used the same exact prompt that I used to create the image to guide the animation, and it's given me exactly pretty much what I was expecting it to give me. So this is the 1.0 version, and when we go to 1.5, it looks pretty much the same. There are some nuanced differences, but it's giving us the same animation. Maybe it's a little slower even moving through. Maybe the details are a little bit crisper, but the color palette is definitely different. In fact, in this case, it looks a little bit more muted than the 1.0. So I hope those brief examples have been helpful and can get you excited about going to try this stuff out over at Kling. Now, again, yes, my results were hit and miss, just like they are on all of these platforms. AI is not perfect yet, but whenever I see any fully produced AI film, even though it's only 2 or 3 minutes, and the creator is talking about what went into it, they'll say things like, I did 2,000 renders to get these shots. That's just filmmaking. That's normal. So even in my examples, giving it 2 or 3 shots to do it and giving up isn't really what you would do if you were a serious filmmaker. If you had actors on the set and you were giving them direction and it took them 5 times and they still didn't do it, what are you going to do? Shut down production? No, you just keep working with them. And maybe some of you have some tips and tricks that I missed or just glossed over completely, or you know a way to make what I was trying to do way easier or better. I would love to hear about that in the comments, because this is how we all learn. And if this is the type of stuff you like to learn more about, here's an idea. Subscribe to the channel. This is what we talk about all the time.
If you subscribe now, I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you do not, I will look for you. I will find you. And I